I had this spirit on me that was just angry. I was just so mad at everything. I was just frustrated with life. I was done, and I just I talked to my wife or my wife now, girlfriend then. I talked to her one night, and we were on the way back from a date. Date went great. Everything was happy. We had a great night. And on the drive back, I just texted her. And I was like, I'm just so mad at everything. It's like I don't even know why. Like as soon as I dropped you off, I'm just mad. I was like, I just want to go hit something. I was so
Really?
frustrated. It just was just on me so bad.
Before we get started today, I wanted to say thank you to all of those who have donated to this channel. If you don't know, down below you can click the donate button to support the channel, and you can give a one-time or you can give monthly. If you're on Facebook, look up Faith and Failures. It's just like the podcast, and actually some of the podcast episodes are coming from people in this group. Right now, there are over 400 people in this group. We're talking about real topics, answering and asking the hard questions. And that's the vision that I have for this podcast. The search for truth should not be something that you have to seek out alone. We're all in this together. We need to bring down the denominational divide and search for truth together. And right now, if you go to faithandfailures.com, you can see weekly blogs, every episode that I put out every week, and every Tuesday we have just started putting out the video of every episode. So check us out on YouTube at Faith and Failures. All right, let's get started. What's up, guys? Welcome to Faith and Failures. Today I have with me Austin Elmore, and he is a bivocational youth pastor, volunteer. That's very important. He's going to touch on that later. And what's up, man? Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you having me. It was kind of a cool experience to get to do this with you, and looking forward to it for the last few days since we talked about the possibility.
Yeah, I'm excited. So if you don't mind, can you kind of tell people where you're at, where you're doing ministry at, and maybe kind of a little bit, since you're bivocational, what you do full time, maybe what your wife does, kind of the things that you do to support your family, and then also youth pastoring on top of that with all the things that come with that label.
Yeah, man, for sure. So basically, like you said, my name's Austin Elmore. I live over in Manford, Oklahoma. We go to Freedom Hill Baptist Church, and I'm the bivocational youth pastor over there. We've been at that church for about 10 years now,
Oh, wow.
going on 11. I've been the youth pastor over there for about 4 and some change, going on 5, I think. And me and my wife, her name is Sarah. We've been married for 5 years, going on 6 in January.
Me and my
So,
wife have been married for 5 years.
hey, there you go.
This past April, yeah.
Awesome. Right on. Congratulations.
I made it 5 years. Woo!
Yeah, there you go. 5 more and hopefully, 20 plus more to go,
Yeah,
right?
at least.
That's it.
What? How much is a life sentence? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm just
oh,
kidding.
no.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, man.
Hopefully she don't listen to that.
Yeah, we'll just edit that part out later,
I'm
right?
gonna be in trouble. I get in trouble a lot from her.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll be kindred spirits then, because I do plenty of that myself. I don't need any help.
That makes it fun. If we
But
didn't act this way, they would get bored. Let's just be
that's
honest.
true. We just throw a little spice in their life, you know.
Hey, you're welcome, ladies.
That's right. That's right. It's worse. We're just digging deeper.
Yeah, it gets deeper. It's all right.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
anyway, yeah.
how did you get into ministry? Were you asked to do the position, or is it something that you've kind of felt God stirring it for a while in your heart? Or
Yeah, so do you want the long story or the short story?
hey, give it to me, man. I got at least an hour or more.
Right on. So basically, I mean, really, to answer that, I have to pretty much go into my testimony a little bit, because
Yeah.
that's basically the part of it that got me here. So basically, my wife and I, we were kind of like, high school sweethearts. We knew each other. Went to a church event. One of my friends invited me in 8th grade to go to this church event, and then we met there. It went really great. She told me I was annoying and had a really big head, so I knew it was love from the very first start. It
All
was
right.
great. So, but
Hey,
then, yeah, I must have done something right,
it worked.
But yeah.
Hey,
So
I kid you
anyway,
not. My wife kind of told me the same thing. She
hey, there
said I
you
was
go.
too goofy and I couldn't be serious and all this other stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It
we
worked.
got proof. We got proof that it works.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, so we met there for the first time, and then we end up going back to tech together because we went to separate schools, and we started dating then and everything. And so I was not, I'd gone to church growing up and everything, but
Yeah.
and I knew who God was. I knew, who He was supposed to be to me. I knew that at this point. I knew he had a bunch of rules and had a bunch of stuff that I was
Yeah.
supposed to do and not supposed to do, and somehow that made me a better person or didn't.
Right.
And that's what it was to me at that point. And then I was all about working and welding and forget school, and I want to go make some money and
Yeah.
buy a bigger truck and a nice, and all this kind of stuff, typical high schooler, I guess, and just running amok of things. And my uh, my senior year, uh, me and her relationship got a little bit more serious. We were just kind of growing in our relationship, and she had told me from the very beginning, if hey, this is where I'm at on Sunday, this is where I'm at on Wednesday. If you want to hang out with me on those days, this is where I'll be. And I was like, okay.
Trying to bait you.
So that's right, that's right. She hooked me in. So anyway, so I started going to church with her and her family, and um, basically just behind the scenes, God was slowly working on me, slowly
Yeah.
melting my heart and getting me prepared, and just subtle things. I was starting to see this and see that, understand. Okay, well, there's a little bit more to this than what I thought, and but the byproduct of that is sin and just I know that the devil was just trying to hang on to me. He didn't want to let go.
Yeah.
And so I had this spirit on me that was just angry. I was just so mad at everything. I was just frustrated with life. I was done. And I just I talked to my wife or my wife now, girlfriend then. I talked to her one night, and we were on the way back from the date. Date went great. Everything was happy. We had a great night. And on the drive back, I just texted her. And I was like, I'm just so mad at everything. It's like I don't even know why. Like as soon as I dropped you off, I'm just mad. I was like, I just want to go hit something. I was so
Really.
frustrated. It just was just on me so bad. And I had things going on like like my just I didn't like school.
Yeah.
My dad's been in the military for going on 30 years here pretty soon. So
Oh
I
wow.
grew up an army brat. So he's had to go a lot and deployed a couple times and stuff like that. So there was things to be frustrated about. Everybody's got those, but
Yeah.
I was just so frustrated. And so I went home and I was sitting outside. It sounds like super redneck, but I was sitting outside on my tractor just chilling
On
because
your
that's
big
I
game
guess what we
tractor.
do. Yeah, that's what we do in Oklahoma. I
Piece of
guess
straw
we just
sticking out of your mouth.
that's right. Had the 10-gallon hat.
Yeah.
I was just chilling. Yeah. So I was just sitting out there, and I was so frustrated. I just remember talking to God, and I was like, just I don't know what this is. I don't know what you want from me, but I just I'm so mad. Just I need to figure this out. And then literally like not even 2 seconds later, um, a youth pastor from a church that I went to a few times, and I didn't even really I knew that I knew him fairly well, like on a friendly basis, but
Mm.
never really connected with him like any type of theology or him trying to too much like depth of discipleship or anything.
Yeah.
And he just calls me and he's like, hey man, he's like, I just wanted to check on it. This is like 10:30, 10:45 at night. And he's like, hey man, God just laid you on my heart, and I just felt like I needed to call and check on you. And I
Wow.
was like, all right, God. I was like, okay, all right, I'm listening. Yeah. So he's like, why don't you just come over to the house and let's talk? And I was like, cool, let's do it. So I jumped in my truck, drove over there, and that night we talked about everything. I told him how I was feeling, what was going on, and that's and I received salvation. I just committed and surrendered my life, and it was kind of a cool thing because I was my salvation in my life was kind of like my 180.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, yeah, I surrendered my life, or I received salvation, I proclaimed Jesus and that kind of stuff, but I'm not really fully ready to surrender yet. That kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, I was like, I'm done. I'm all in. This is the way it's going to be.
It's awesome.
There's no other way. You know what I mean? I was like, this is the
Yeah.
only way now. I'm tired of this anger. I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm done. So I guess I was just hard headed enough that God knew He's gonna have to make it something intense for me to really stick with it. I don't know, but
That's how I have to learn.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like He created us or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like He knows us. I don't
So
know.
it's his fault. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, so but after that point, I started getting more involved in the church with my wife at the
Mhm.
church we're at now, and started getting more involved. I instantly just kind of felt connected with the youth group that we were going to because I was still a senior at this time,
Mhm.
and that first year of my salvation was the first year that I went to Falls Creek or any type of church camp really ever.
Mhm.
Um, that I can remember anyway, maybe when I was a little kid. But anyway, so we went to that, and I felt like I was just falling right into like different leadership things. Like the sponsors there were asking me like, hey, you want to lead us in prayer, or hey, you want to read this, or you know what I mean, like little
Yeah.
things. And I was just kind of feeling that and seeing that. And then I got there and I was just praying and praying, trying to figure out what was going on. And then like the third night there, they actually had a specific altar call for calls to ministry, and I was like, dang. And I was sitting there, I was just sitting there and I was praying and I could feel it. And then and Sarah, my wife, she was sitting there next to me and she was just praying for me. And she looked over at me. She was like, you got to go down there, right? And I was like, I do. And then she's like, yeah, like, like this is, yeah, you got to go down there. Like, let's go get this taken care of. And I was like, all right. So
Quit being stupid and go down to the front.
exactly, exactly. I mean, and that's like the ultimate story of basically our entire marriage is me being stupid, and she'd be like, you're supposed to do this, right? And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
God knows what
So
we need.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. He definitely filled in all the voids of my nonsense with her. That's for sure. And she had big shoes to fill in that section. I promise. But anyway, so that's when I felt that call, and that's when that I just knew it was done right there, and it wasn't even a call at that point. I knew I was called to youth ministry. I knew I
Yeah.
wasn't called to be a pastor. I knew I wasn't called to be an evangelist or a church planter or anything. I was like, I know that I'm called to youth, and from that day forward, man, it's like just I'm just burdened by them. Like I just any our community and our youth. I mean, I can not even know a kid and see one of them struggling, and I'm just like, I want to just take them in, I'm just
Yeah.
like, let me help you, like let me be there for you, like I want to do that,
That's awesome.
and it just reaffirms, that calling and knowing that was exactly what he was calling for me. So yeah, so that's kind of how that calling came into play. And then I continued to grow. I asked God, I was like, hey, is this time? Is it time? And I just still felt like he was saying, just wait a little longer, wait a little longer. We'll be all
Yeah.
right. I'll get you hooked up in the right spot. Just trust me. And so I had to be still for a while and try to learn and grow and get some more muck out of my life. And eventually, uh, we both felt like it was just time to step in. We had a temporary youth pastor. Well, I say temporary. They stepped into the youth pastor role and then had left pretty quickly after. It was about a little less than a year, I think, if I
Mhm.
remember right. And after they had left, I was like, I think it's time. So we talked. Me and my wife prayed about it and talked, and we felt like it was the right thing to go ahead and step into, and it was just really it's like spiritually relieving in a way to be able to step into
Yeah.
what I felt like has been building up. So
That's kind of
it was
how
pretty awesome.
like we took a youth pastor position at the church. She grew up there. I came back to the Lord there. Like when I went down to the altar and gave my heart to God again, like I had a bag of meth in my pocket.
Oh no.
And I went home and I cried that night and I smoked it.
Oh
Because I
man.
justified that I bought it. I spent my hard-earned
Oh
money.
yeah, yeah. You
He
can't let
just
it go to
he just
waste, right?
yeah, yeah, I spent money on
Yeah.
it. God understands, right?
Yeah. Right.
That's where I came back to the Lord, and so we just recently, within the last couple of months, and then I started leading worship there. We got married there. We became youth pastors there for about 4 years, and it was like you talked about, like all of a sudden you could see the avenue and that channel that something had been building up. All of a sudden you had a channel for it to go out, and it was like a relief of pressure. Like you just knew that that's where
Yeah.
it was
Yep.
right.
Mhm.
Well, I've been having something burning in my heart in the last 6 months, and the same, which out of that has come this podcast
Mm.
and other things that I've done, because it sounds so cliche, but to me, 2020, to me, God's given me a vision. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah. For
sounds so
sure. For
stupid. My
sure.
wife was like, "That's dumb." I was, "I don't
It's
care."
okay. It's okay. All the pastors are using it. Don't
Hey,
worry.
but it's like it's like something woke up in me, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Where's this new fire? Like, what is this coming from? This new passion, this new compassion, like all this." It was like this buildup inside of me and inside my spirit and my heart, and I was like, what is happening? And then all of a
Mm.
sudden, my pastor, he had something with his heart, and so like when COVID hit,
Mhm.
the first service, the next service where we were only live, and it was just me, the pastor's wife, my wife, and the guy that did the offering, and then I was doing worship as well. And he asked me to preach, and for like the next 3 to 4 weeks, I was preaching, and it felt like that release was happening that you talked about.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'm like, what is it? Like, I would get, I guess, preachy in the youth services, and my wife was like, "You need to
Yeah.
kinda dumb it down a little bit. You're doing not too much studying," but you know what I mean? Like, it was
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
maybe a little over their heads because
A
our
little too
new
much meat.
yeah, our new crop was like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our seniors had already graduated, and so I was,
Got
for
you.
one, kinda used to talking to seniors where they kinda understood a little better, and but it just kept building up, and then this, a lead pastor of a church over in a town called Longview, it's about an hour from our house, and
Mhm.
he called me up and he said, "Hey, I talked to your pastor. Would you be interested in coming and being, a worship leader, and then
Mhm.
maybe associate?" And I'm like, "Okay, well let me pray about it. Let me talk to my wife." And
Yeah.
when we talked, both of us knew, like, it wasn't that our church was where we were at. We were unhappy because it was very comfortable. We knew everybody. Everybody loved us. We loved them. That
Yeah.
was our church family. But it was like God slowly, within the last year or so, started putting kind of a thorn in our nest to where we were. We knew that it was time to go to the next step, but we didn't know where it was at.
Yeah. Kinda making you restless.
And I preached my first sermon at this new church last Sunday.
Oh, wow. So this is real fresh.
Yeah, and so that was like that release was there. So
Mm.
much so, like, okay, so God, I don't know if you have this when God speaks to you or when he's talking to you, but to me, it's when I'm trying to fall asleep at night.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He'll give me sermons, he'll just start pouring things into me, or I'll be preaching in my mind and I'll fall asleep to praying and preaching.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done that a time or two.
And it's like all of a sudden this I'm not saying like I'm anything, but this sleeping giant has awakened.
Yeah.
And now, like, God is like, "Okay, you're going in the right direction. I'm just giving you that kick in the rear that you always need to start moving in the right
Yeah.
area, in the right way." It was an amazing thing to be able to share my heart and to be able to fulfill that. It gives you a level of fulfillment, even though
Oh, yeah.
you're still working during the week and you're coming on Sunday and doing a job. But
Right. Right.
it's a level of fulfillment that I think a lot of people don't understand because
Yep.
if they see you not getting paid, they're like, "Well, why are you doing it?"
Yep.
Speaking on that, so you're you're
Speaking of not getting paid, right?
you're bivocational. Now, did you
Yeah.
what were your, if we can be a little blunt, I like bluntness,
Yeah.
I like
I'm down.
honest. What did you have reserves? Did the pastor come to you? Did you go to the pastor? Like, how did that happen to where then you were the leader of the youth?
Yeah. So it was pretty cool because it happened pretty naturally. Because, like I said, that God was kind of, I felt like He was shaping that in me throughout those years. So even though we weren't you know, we weren't leading the youth yet and doing that, we were still trying to be, adult sponsors, adult volunteers. Like
Yeah.
we were still going to Falls Creek and helping. We were doing anything and everything to just be connected with them and kind of being in that mentorship role. So that part was pretty natural. I didn't feel like a whole lot really changed with like what we were wanting to do and what we were wanting to be for them. It was just more like the responsibility of like, okay, now I'm the one that has to make this happen now. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like not like I'm not facilitating. I'm like, okay, now we got to schedule this stuff and do the,
Yeah.
so and come up with a message to teach every single time. It's all on me, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's like sometimes it's like I have weeks that I think like, oh man, like how am I going to do this for like years, come up with different things every
Yeah.
single week. But then I'm like, whenever I stop being stupid and I just listen to God, He's like, I got you. Like
Yeah.
I've already given you what you're supposed to talk about. If you'll just listen for a minute,
Yeah.
I'll hook you up. It's like, so I get worked up sometimes about stuff, but
Yeah, I do too. Especially when because this past Sunday was a big deal. It was our
yeah,
first sermon, and it was going to be kind of the whether he was going to keep letting me be, the associate. I
yeah,
don't think he was actually thinking that in his head, but it was a relief to him, because I actually enjoyed it, and it was a good response that he had,
yeah,
and
yeah.
better than the opposite. I mean,
Right. I'd be
then I
like,
probably wouldn't be
so
there.
I'm gonna have to rethink this.
Yeah,
Really, the way it happened was he had been wanting us to step in for a few years, and we just were trying to wait until we felt like God was telling us that it was time to do it.
yeah,
I didn't want to jump the gun. I didn't want to do it unless we were both, in spiritual unity, saying like, yeah, it's time to do this.
absolutely.
Um, so it did. It worked out pretty naturally, and they were stepping out as I feel like God was telling us it's time. And He came to us and was like, "Okay, like, are you good to do this? Like, you ready to go?" And we're like, "Yeah, we can. We're ready." So then I think I'm pretty sure the day that they had left, because when they left the youth ministry role. Sorry, my son's giving me a thumbs up real quick.
Yeah,
He's like, "Yeah, good job, Dad." So anyway, so whenever they had stepped out, they actually left the church completely.
yeah,
So there, it was, if I remember right, it was on a day that we were having a leadership meeting. So all the leadership would come together after church. We kind of eat a little bit, a little
mhm,
potluck, and talk about the vision of the church, stuff that's going on, stuff. And he actually came like and talked to us right before we started eating, and then in the meeting he was like, "Okay, everybody vote," and they're like, "All right, we're good." So we basically got asked and started the same day.
wow,
So it worked out pretty quick on that deal.
yeah.
Um, but it was one of those. He felt like it was a long time coming, and it kind of finally just stuck together type deal. So it was really nice.
So you said there's some things that well, being a bivocational, it's very difficult to balance. Do you
Yeah, a lot of time balance is everything.
do you have some wisdom? Maybe you can share some discouragements, but also
Uh,
some wins as well.
yeah, yeah. So one thing, obviously, a little envious of youth pastors that get to just dedicate all the time
Yeah,
to it. Just to be like, oh, you have office hours where you just get to like go over stuff, and
must be nice.
'cause yeah, yeah, it'd be really cool if I could do that. Oh, you
Yeah,
even have an office? Okay, but no, but no, I mean, not nothing against any full. I mean, I would love to, if God wills it, one day be able to be full time. That would definitely bring peace to my spirit, and that'd be great. But
now, if you did that, would you stop the construction stuff,
absolutely,
or could you be able to have someone manage it and you?
I probably could,
Yeah,
but honestly, where I'm at is anything that is outside of ministry is a means to an end.
yeah,
To me, I mean, I'm not saying that it probably wouldn't be a good idea or whatever, but just where my heart is like, if I have a way to go full time ministry, if I got to sell my house and get something smaller, whatever, as long as my family's fed and taken care of, and I'm doing what God's calling me to do, I'll let the company go. I don't care.
that's a big deal. That's a true calling.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
people
and
would do that. They want to get as much as they can and hold on to it. That's a big deal. That shows a lot
well,
of your heart right there.
yeah, I mean, it's all out there, man. I mean, it's just, I mean, I love these kids, and I struggled. I had a lot of struggles growing up with just myself, and I had just different. Not nothing that my parents did wrong. Like
Yeah.
they I had a great relationship with my parents all through my childhood. They loved me. They took care of me.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy there. I lived a pretty blessed childhood, and me and my parents still have a great relationship. Everything's good there. But just with myself, your own sinful struggles and everything, and I just I don't want them to feel like God has not made a way through those things, because everybody likes to throw the Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and that's a powerful and amazing verse. But if they forget the Christ who strengthens me part is the problem, that
Yeah.
you get this idea of, and this false idea of, I can get through all this, I can just ask God and He's going to get me through all of it, and they forget that being faithful and praying is part of it, but you also have to do something about it. Like you have to get into the word. You have to be taking the steps to do that, as well as the talk with it.
Yeah. Takes
And
action.
yeah, because like talks about in James, you can't have faith without works, and works without faith, it doesn't work. You have to get in and do something about it, as well as with your faith. So and so I want them to have that. I want them to be able to know somebody's there. Um, not gonna judge them if they call and say, hey, look, I messed up. I went to this party, I did this or whatever. I've told my youth group from the beginning. I said, I don't care if you're at a party and you're just like slobber drunk or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and you messed up and you call me at 3 in the morning. I will come and I'll pick you up. And as long as you're safe and you're okay, I'll take you home. And yeah, we're going to talk about it later, but
Yeah.
I'm going to get you home first, and I'm going to
Yeah.
make sure you're safe. And I've just told them, I was like, I'm not gonna scold you on the way home or whatever. We're just gonna make sure you're safe and healthy, and we're gonna talk about it later. Stuff like that. I want them to know that God is safe. It's because I
Absolutely.
feel like uh, I don't know if it was just me and the way Oklahoma is or what, but being in the Bible Belt or whatever, it's you get this brimfire and hellstone kind of, like all
Yeah.
this, you got to do this or you're going to hell and this and that, and it's just really like cut and dry, and it makes it to where like a relationship with God is cold,
Yeah.
and that's not the way that Jesus teaches us. In anything that He did, nothing was cold. It was all about love. It was all about compassion. you know, uh, Makes me think about like whenever He raised Lazarus from the dead. He went, and when He showed up and they were all crying, He wasn't like, oh yeah, y'all need to chill out, I'm about to raise him from the dead, just calm down. He met them where they were, and he wept with them.
Yeah.
He showed compassion for where they were. There's nothing cold about that.
No.
And so it's just, I feel like it's just really important that pastors don't forget that, yeah, we have to make sure that they're hearing us, but we're not the one that's changing anything. Holy Spirit changes things. God changes things.
Exactly.
He's the one that works on hearts. All our calling is, and our job is to be there for them, give them any type of advice and scripture and discipleship that we can. But at the end of the day, I'm not changing any hearts.
Yeah.
It's not me. So
That's
that's
one of the biggest, I think, most powerful pieces of advice. When I first started off in youth ministry, I had 2, 3 youth, and
mm,
I met this guy at youth camp my first year, and he was talking to me about youth, and he has like I think 30 to 40 youth and stuff like that. So I mean, we're guilty of basing numbers on success. So I was like,
right.
okay, you obviously you're doing something right. I mean, we can look at it like that. So
Yeah.
what are you doing right? And he said the one thing that I've learned, and he'd been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years. He said the main thing for youth is to be there.
Every time.
2 words: be there. Go to their
Yep.
stuff, show up, be someone that they can call and rely on. Like if they go out and get drunk and do
Yeah.
something stupid, they can call you
Yep.
because chances are they'll call you before they call their parents.
That's right.
Nobody wants to call their parents when they're drunk.
No, they'll end up trying to sleep it off at a party and possibly end up, getting killed or something. You never
Yeah,
know. Like, if they're in a dangerous medical situation and they don't want to call their parents because they don't want to make them mad, that's tough. So, but no, you're absolutely right. That's one of the best things that you can do. Consistency.
Yeah.
One of the things that, I mean, not to say that you're not going to mess up. I mean, you can't count on all. I don't have enough fingers on my hands to count how many times I mess up every day. It's just not going to happen. But
Right.
um, but one of the biggest things, like in our community, we got a lot of, and it's everywhere. I mean, it's just kind of unfortunately where the way that family culture is going is just a lot of broken homes. It's like
Yeah.
you're missing mom, you're missing dad, or they got divorced and now you got this new mom or new dad that you don't like, or they're not nice, or whatever it might be, or that situation, and they lose consistency in their adolescence and in their growth, or in their growth, and when their spirits are maturing and their bodies are maturing and all that stuff's happening, and they're holding on to that. Life is inconsistent.
Yeah.
Everything's inconsistent. I can't trust that this is going to be the same as it was when I left to go to school and come home. You know what I mean? Like there's not that consistency. So when you're able to offer that, and not only offer consistency, but offer consistent love,
Yeah.
like to love on them consistently. They know when they come to you, they're going to be edified, they're going to be built up, they're going to be cared about enough for you to take time to talk to them about whatever it was that they needed to talk about, whether it's Minecraft or whether it's, whatever TikTok that they saw and thought it was hilarious and had to show
Yeah.
you, and you're just like, what is this?
Yeah.
And
It's
what?
stupid.
Yeah, yeah, whatever it might be. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously, like even the tiniest little thing, looking at a picture they thought, or a meme they thought was hilarious,
Yeah.
just that split second, it takes 5 seconds to look at it, laugh if it's funny, kind of fake laugh if you have to, if it's not, whatever it might be.
Just to show you care. Yeah.
That's right. And they know every time they come to you with something that's important to them, it's important to you. And then they have that consistency, and they know that if they absolutely actually need something that's serious, they're going to be like, okay, this is my best bet.
Yeah.
Because every time I go there, at least I know what I'm going to get.
I had one youth that would always come every single Wednesday, and he would show me something funny on his phone
Yep.
every single week, even
Yep.
on Sundays. And he was always there, faithful, always there.
Yeah.
When he was a little bit younger, he's about 15 now. He would give me a lot of trouble because he talks a lot. He
Mm-hmm.
likes being funny. He would roll around on the floor and be, for
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
to see and stuff. And I'm like, "What? Get up off the floor!" And so
Right.
I was given the go ahead from his grandparents and his parents to be a little more stern with him.
Mm-hmm.
But when we announced that we were leaving the church, he came and hugged me and cried and cried and cried and cried.
Yeah.
And that broke my heart, but also gave me hope because
Yep.
the little small things like you talked about, just you cared enough just to stop because, you know, I'm a parent. Okay. My
Mm-hmm.
kid is 11 years old. He's a product of a broken home. Like I was married to his mom and then we got divorced and uh he lives with us now. He's been with us for 3 years and there's a
Wow.
lot of things at being so young when he was, 7 and came to live with us that is emotional distress that he doesn't know how to handle and it's bottled up and it's
Yep.
trying to find a channel to go out, hyperactivity and all the other stuff he's dealing with.
Yeah.
And and you start to realize that kids deal with this kind of stuff every day and don't know who to talk to, don't know where to take their problems to. And as youth pastors, that weight is so heavy because you know that you have exactly what they need.
Yeah.
And it's a heavy burden.
Yeah. I
And the
mean,
calling is it's without repentance.
yeah, absolutely. And, because there's times that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have days sometimes to where I'll be at work and I literally can't focus. Like I'll have guys coming up to me like, hey man, I need you to look at these prints with me. Let's look at this, and I need you to show me what the customer wants here or there. And my head is just like, I wonder what so and so's doing. Like I know they had
Yeah.
that test today. Like maybe I need to text them and let them know, I prayed for them for the test or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And like I'm just so gone out of it, and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta get back to work. Like what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then like a 30-minute lunch break turns into an hour and a half lunch break, and and it's just like some days I'm like, I need to prioritize. But at the same time, then I get thinking about it, I'm like, I actually am prioritizing, because like
Yeah.
that's what, it's like, who's am I going to fire myself? No.
Right?
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, so what? So
And just simple things like once you see him again, or like I would send a random text. Like one of the things that would irritate me is I would send a group text out and nobody would respond.
Yes,
Oh, that
all the
gets me.
time,
But
all the time,
when I would individually text them, usually they would text me
almost
back.
every time.
Yeah.
Yep,
And so
yep.
I'd just be like,
So
"Hey,
true.
just thinking about you today," or "Hey, hope you're having a good Tuesday," or
Yep.
"Hope your week's going, the test."
Always
And
get a response.
it means the world to them because you're taking the time. Because and two, being bivocational, they know that you're out there working, and you're
Yeah.
still thinking of them. That's a big deal too. S-
Yeah, and they it was funny when I told them because for the longest, because we when we started, we had really young, like kind of like what you were talking about. We had the all of our old seniors and juniors and stuff had just went out, and we were starting young, and
Yeah.
our church is fairly small, so I actually do middle school and high school together,
Wow.
which yeah, it's a struggle, bro. It's a struggle. Yeah, I
I
got
see it on your
I got
face.
yeah, I got fart noises in one corner and then talking about something else in the other corner, and the middle is just like glaring at each other like, really? Yeah, it's good. It's really good. So, yeah.
So being bivocational, what's one of your biggest hurdles that you've had to overcome?
One that I'm still trying to overcome,
Yeah.
and that's making sure that I'm giving my time where it needs to be given, and the amount that it needs to be given to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really probably the most one of the most difficult things that I do. And that's being healthy with my son, being healthy with my wife, being healthy with my church and my youth group, being healthy with trying to not overwhelm myself with my job because what I do is it's detail oriented. You have a lot of stuff like
Yeah.
I can meet with a customer and they could change seven things, and if I get a phone call from a youth on the way back to the truck before I can write it down, I'm like, and
Yeah.
then so prioritizing, and sometimes it's like, okay, if they would have called me, I could have called them back in 2 seconds, and I could have wrote that down and not had to have a second meeting and
Yeah.
then put myself behind it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like I'm in my personality.
Constantly juggling.
Yes,
Yeah.
juggling. Yeah. And my personality a lot of times is what my wife likes to tell me is all or nothing. That's just the
Yeah.
way I am. It's like I'm either doing it or I'm not.
Yeah.
And
My
and
wife
I'm
tells me
all
the same thing.
yeah, I'm all in or not.
Yeah.
So because it's like, like say if if I'm gonna build my like I went to build a back deck on our house, and my wife was wanting a back deck, and this was like a year ago or so. Anyway, so like just as an example, so I go and I'm like, okay, I could probably build like a little 12 by 20 or something and knock it out and get her a nice little deck, and that'd be fine. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, I don't know, I could probably put some spindles on the rails and make that look pretty good. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I probably need to go ahead and make it a little bigger because what if we want to get, my son a pool or a little mini pool, and then we need room for that, and then and then I need a storage box for the toys, and I guess I could go ahead and just wire up some fans and some lights, because it gets hot.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we got like a 32 by 12 deck, and it took me 2 weeks, and like, she's like, I just wanted a little deck. And
That's little.
so yeah, I mean, I could have went way bigger. I mean, it's totally little. It's only 3/4 of the length of the house. No big
Yeah.
deal.
Right.
So yeah, it's very go big or go home, and sometimes it's not so good, and sometimes it's good. Um,
So
it's
what have
got
been
pros and cons to it.
yeah, so what has been one of your biggest hurdles with the corona going on?
Uh,
Have y'all shut down or y'all been going still? Because I know it depends on where you're at, but some
yeah,
places
so
more
we're
concentrated.
not we're not like in the red zone. We're not in any of that right now. I mean, we definitely got plenty of cases going on. I mean, like everywhere in the world, but
Yeah.
and it's most of our cities and stuff around here all have like mask mandates and stuff like that
Yeah.
going on, and but what we do is we live stream and we
Mhm.
tell all of our congregation basically, like, if you feel comfortable coming, please join us. If you don't, we're gonna have it up on the live stream. You can do that too,
Yeah.
whichever you feel most comfortable with. But we're here and the doors are open if you want to come. Same thing for the youth. We do the same thing with that. So we try to, but most of the youth, don't really care, to be
Yeah.
honest, whether it's good or bad. But we've definitely seen a pretty decent hit in our numbers for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure like everywhere, but because like when we very first started, we had maybe 5 or 6 youth. Because I mean we're in a really rural community,
Hmm.
and it's like the closest town to us is like a 10 or 12 minute drive each way from our church. So we're like
Oh, really?
in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, uh, so anyway, so yeah, so we went from about six or so, and then there for right before all this stuff really hit, we got up to 25 or
Oh,
so,
wow.
give or take, trying to. We were growing pretty good. They were inviting a lot of friends, and there was a lot of growth, spiritual growth as well.
Yeah.
Mainly, numbers are a byproduct of spiritual growth,
Absolutely.
or should be anyway.
Right.
I always, I don't know. I got to be careful with what I say sometimes. I don't want to make anybody upset. Bridle, if you can bridle your tongue, James says, right? Isn't that what that was? You bridle your whole heart, your whole heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my tongue doesn't like bridles very good sometimes. But
Yeah. My wife kept saying to me, she was like, maybe you shouldn't have said it that way. Like, well, I'm not
yeah,
lying.
yeah. It's like, I mean, I'm not wrong. Like it's true, but no, it's so hard sometimes, especially I see it a lot like in rural communities and churches, to not just be like the Chuck E. Cheese of youth group. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, let's spend all this budget on getting these inflatables and getting this big boombox or this big surround system and all this stuff, and let's like make it super fun. And then they just want to come, and then we'll just throw a little Jesus in there. So then
Right.
because
Try to trick them to get them there.
yeah, yeah, it's like let's get them there for something fun, and then we'll just be like, oh wait, hold up, let's talk about Jesus for a minute, and then all of them just off, and then look at their phones, and like it's
Yeah.
not truly engaging, and it's so easy to do that because if you look at the numbers, and then the church is seeing it, it's like, oh yeah, they had like 50 kids there the other night, like that's half the school, it's like
Right.
out here anyway,
Yeah.
but
But it's
but
really
it's
that
like
it means nothing. If
exactly,
they're not being discipled and they're not really you can have a room full of converts or
yep,
Christians, but no conversions is pointless.
that's right. You could have a room full of pew sitters.
Yeah. Or
I
consumer
mean,
Christians. That's dangerous too.
exactly. Oh yeah, it's like what can you give me? What else can you give me? Oh, do
Yeah.
you have some cool videos? All right, I'll eat that up. Oh, you got some pamphlets? Okay, I'll take that too.
Yeah.
But it's like, anyway, we could get off on
Right.
that. This will be a 4 hour long podcast if you're not careful.
So
Don't get
the
me fired up.
something the interview from I guess it was this week's episode. Sometimes I lose track of him. He said something that I never thought of before, and I was like, that's kind of brilliant. He said that he does youth and ministers in church with no expectation,
Mm,
and I was like, no expectation. You don't want anything, but he was saying like he says he has kids that will come and eat every Wednesday for free food. And if you don't be careful, you can let yourself get upset about that when really your ministry should be to serve them, not to
hmm
not want them to be a number. And I
Well,
was like,
yeah, you
wow,
should
that's
give without wanting something in return.
yeah. I was like, man,
Yeah,
because that becomes because we become the consumer church. Like we're
yeah,
wanting to get people to come to our, church,
yeah.
and then people know that they don't
Oh
want to
yeah,
talk to church people because they want us. Oh, they're going to try to get my tithes. I know what they're doing.
that's right. They just want that paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
So
oh, they'll give us a little coffee on the front end trying to get the big
right.
bucks on the back end. I know what it
Exactly.
is.
Yeah, people see the truth and they see hidden agendas
Yeah.
without even trying.
Yeah.
So for someone
No
out there
doubt.
who is right now, they are bivocational themselves. What have you learned in the years you've been doing it, and what could you leave them with as kind of a final statement to encourage them to keep going on?
Yeah. So I guess uh, a lot of the things that I've learned um, is like we talked about. One of the big things is, it has a lot to do with the little things,
Yeah.
like being there in those little moments when you're super stressed out or you got craziness going on, but you literally took a second to talk to them or to look at that picture or whatever it might be.
Mm.
That's a big one. And then Um, honestly, one of the other big things that I've always tried really hard to make very clear is I tell all my youth, no matter what, I don't care what I've taught you, what I've read. I don't care if I read the scripture 14 times. If you are taking what I say as the Bible, you're not doing yourself any good.
Right.
I'm supposed to be a helper. I'm supposed to help with those things and give mentorship and things like that. But if you're believing something because I said it, it's not worth anything. You have to believe it because you believe it because you discovered that.
Right.
And a lot of times it's easy to be like, okay, well, I know that I'm teaching sound doctrine. I know my context. I know what's going on. I know I'm not leading them in the wrong direction, whatever it might be. But it's so critical that they have to own that
Yeah.
because it's so easy to live off of your pastor's faith.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, and it's even easier for youth because youth can live off their youth pastor's faith
Yeah.
so easily because they're like, okay, I know I don't have to read the Bible because he's going to come in twice a week and give me my sermon, and I can, even if I apply it to my life, that's a couple times a week I'll reform a little bit, and then I'll go, you
Yeah.
know what I mean, like, letting them do the work for you or whatever, which that's not a problem, but
Then they're dependent on you instead of the Word of
that's
God.
right, that's right, and when we get called to minister, we're not always called to minister in the same spot forever.
Yeah.
And that leads to a lot of brokenness if all they're doing is relying on you for their faith.
Yep.
Because if God calls you somewhere else, what'd you leave them with?
Yeah.
Not a lot. Um, that would be the another thing. And then, I mean, really, the last thing is if you're like on the fence about youth ministry, like if you're like, man, I don't really know if God's calling me to do this, but I connect with the kids pretty good or whatever. Don't apply for a youth pastor position. I mean, if I'm just being straight up with you,
Yeah.
I mean, just being honest, go be an adult volunteer in a youth group for a while
Yeah.
and pray about it a lot. Because if you don't know that you know that you know that this is right for you, it's really, really hard. It's,
Yeah.
it's not something that like right now, and it's such a huge blessing to be able to do. I love that we have chosen to do this, but like one of our girls in our youth group, she was having some issues at home, and not like bad or anything, but like there was just some connectivity issues and things. She was not meant to be with some family that she was, with for a while, and she just wasn't settled,
Yeah.
like in a good home situation. Like she just didn't feel that connectivity, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
But so we had just recently, we're working on transferring her guardianship, and she's just moved in with us, and she's going to be
Oh wow.
living with us and indefinitely. I mean, so she's part of our family. So my
That's
son
cool.
loves her. She loves him. It's, I mean, just a huge blessing to have her here. But things like that, it's like if I was doing just doing me, I would never in a million years probably choose that,
Yeah.
you know, and I would be missing out on so many blessings for what I was called to do. But it feels, I know that God has ordained that situation, and he's blessed us with that situation because it's a blessing while we're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's not, um, it's so easy sometimes to see what you want to do for God and not what he's called you to do for God. I guess that's what I'm trying to bottom line get to,
Yeah.
is because, like, just because something, like, that's the right thing to do, like, the right thing is to go and evangelize to these people and let them know about Jesus. If you're not called to be an evangelist, you are not going to feel like that spiritual, like that release of peace,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean, like we were talking about earlier.
Trying to step into
Like,
somebody else's calling instead of what
that's
God's
right.
called you to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like youth is such a specific one because it's like you're dealing like with teenagers all day. Like
Hormones
that's what it
everywhere.
is. Yeah, hormones everywhere. And then so I mean, it's like you have to be called and love them to be able to minister to them the way that the word teaches us to.
Yeah.
Um, Ministering on a discipleship level, not like I'm teaching you some stuff, but like on an actual discipleship level to adults is so drastically different from teenagers,
Yeah.
just for the simple fact that they're in a different place in their life. They don't
Yeah.
care about what house they live in or what the Joneses are doing next door or
Yeah.
what, he just came home with a new truck and whatever, like they don't care about that. They're
Yeah.
trying to figure life out.
Yeah.
They're like, what's wrong with my voice? What's wrong with my face? What am
I
I
don't know
supposed to
what's
do with my life?
happening.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, what am I doing? And they're like, oh, I want to I want to do this at school this day. Oh no, I want to do that. No, I want to be this. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's just such and it's an awesome opportunity because we get to minister to them in one of the most pivotal times
Yeah.
in their whole life. Like when they leave our youth group, they're choosing what career they're going to take the rest of their life.
Yeah.
They're setting up the foundation, and we're called as youth pastors to be ministering and guiding them to know how to be part of the church. And that'll be my last thing of point, like of thing maybe to help with is, you know, make sure that part of your curriculum or whatever, I don't know if you build your own curriculum or if you go off of something, whatever you might do, but whatever that looks like, make sure that a heavy portion of that is teaching them how to be part of the church.
Yeah.
Whether it's like, because as soon as they leave you, they go to college. They got the BCM for a few years, if they even go, because it can be weird because it's totally different than most churches.
Yeah.
And if they go to that, they have a few years of that, and then it's like, oh, there's nobody just sitting here providing something for me that has to do with God. Like I actually have to choose to give up one of my only days off, maybe, to go and do this all day.
And that
Like
could be a scary thing too, especially if they
exactly
don't really understand how it works or how to be a part of it.
right,
It can be an
exactly.
overwhelming feeling, and they just won't go because they don't want to feel that way.
And if they were going to church and their faith was built off of their youth pastor's faith
Yeah.
and they didn't own it themselves, why would they choose to go back to church?
Yeah.
They you know what I mean? Like what is there to own that? I mean, so, but that would be a huge one, whether it's just encouraging them to, hey, well, I mean, I know all churches are different, but like, if it's cool with your church, hey, can some of the youth take the offering plate around, or can
Yeah.
they, go and read a scripture before service,
Give
or
them responsibility, help with the
yeah,
sound, help
yeah,
with
exactly.
do a little egg shaking thing on the
That's
worship team,
right.
something, just
That's
get them involved. Yeah.
right. Give them a microphone that's dead,
Right?
whatever,
Just let them
like,
just let them belt it out. They
like, oh
won't
yeah,
they won't
give
know.
them that one in the corner that hadn't worked for 4 years. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Give them one with a cord, but don't put the cord in it. Don't
That's
think it's the
right. Oh, it's
wireless one.
the new wireless kind. Yeah, yeah.
It's meant to look like the other ones. It's fine.
That's right. That's right. But that would be a big one, man. Whether it's like, hey, you're the one that you need to come in and make sure the lights are on and turn the projector on and hook my computer up. Or, like little stuff. It's not like you're just trying to make them do all your stuff for you, but
It's
you're
taking
letting them
responsibility,
know.
just like you do with your
Yeah,
kids.
exactly. You got to let them own it. Like your kids at home are never going to respect their home if they don't have to own taking care of it.
Yeah.
That they're
They
not going to own their faith unless they are responsible for taking care of it.
Yeah. I like
You
that. That's a
know?
good that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, if
Boom.
they, yeah, there you
I like
go.
that. That was good.
Thank you, God, because it was not me. Because I could have never come up with something like that. I already know. If you need something built, welded, something like that, I got you. That stuff, that's all God. 'Cause I'm not capable of that.
That's how he keeps you humble.
I guess. Uh, between him and my wife, there's lots of humility. I promise
Right?
you that.
One time it was at our old church. My wife, I preached and I asked her for honest opinion, because I always do. I want to
Yeah,
know her input, and so I can see if I need to improve or if the way I delivered it well. I want to be a good speaker and a good communicator.
yeah.
And she was like, "Well, you've done better." I was like, "Okay, thanks." Yeah, I threw a little attitude and everything. I was like, you know what? Never mind.
You know what? I'll go ask somebody who I know will actually tell me what I
Right.
want to hear.
I want to hear something positive, not you've done better.
Right. And that's like, oh, it's so real though, because like my wife does that to me too. Like, and what's bad?
I can see it on your face.
Yeah, yeah. It'll just like done. But like I'll be just like we'll come home on Sunday morning and I'll know that like whenever a message is like a little off. Not
Yeah.
like it's like wrong or like like anything like that, but you just know like you weren't killing it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
they weren't super connected. They weren't, like it was just like kind of like I've done better, I know.
Yeah.
Cuz everybody's got those days. But anyway, so like I'll have one of those and she'll be like we'll come home, she'll be like, "So didn't really didn't really ask them very many questions or get them engaged really, so you might want to work on that a little bit." And be like,
Straighten it up, boy.
yeah. Yeah, but that's one of the best things, though. I think one of the most like it doesn't sound edifying right now, I promise, but one of the most edifying things about like how she does things for me is like she knows that I don't want to hear those things, so like I don't
Yeah.
ask about them, but she just tells me because she's like, I know you need to hear this,
Yeah.
and
Thanks.
it sucks for a minute, but then like I'll get to thinking, I'm like, yeah, I needed to hear that. Like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So,
It's
but
tough to hear, but it's necessary.
absolutely, without checks and balances, man, we're all in trouble.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, Austin, thanks for coming on today. I really
yeah,
appreciate it. I love this topic. This was really good because I lived this before. And
yeah,
it was like I even went kind of the opposite, I guess. I was hired on. I quit my full time job to come on full time. They matched the pay and everything.
yeah.
And then within a year, they cut my pay in half. And so I was like, what do I do?
It's like,
But but I was doing my photography thing and it like it took off and God just blessed. We never missed a bill. And it was
yeah,
God always provides when we're faithful and do what he tells us to do and we follow in his
that's
will.
right. That's right. Yeah, because I can contest that or testify to that too. I mean, like, just starting my company out, and even sometimes now, I mean, between jobs and stuff. I mean, if you got a job and it falls through, or they cancel the contract, and you didn't have something else that was lined up, might be lean for a minute.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like you can just go like, oh, I'll just put some more hours in. It's like no, like that's if you don't get jobs, you don't make any
Yeah.
money in this. So and just starting out, it was super lean,
Yeah.
super lean.
I understand
I'll just put it
completely.
that way. But I promise you, man, like there was times when Sarah and I first got married when we truly learned like what tithing was supposed to mean,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
that it's literally an act of worship. It's not like some type of another bill or something you have to pay. Like it's an act of submission and worship and showing God who He is in your life. And 'cause, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When we first got married, we just got out of college, and I did not have any money. I sold my car to buy her wedding ring. Uh, yeah. So
I bought
anyway,
I bought a cheap $100 ring that was, cubic zirconia or whatever.
yeah,
I don't know until our 5 year, I actually had money, and so I got her, like, a real one,
yeah.
and I said, "I don't know if you knew that that wasn't real." She's like, "Yeah, I kinda figured because she had to pay
Yeah.
for the what's the wedding paper? What is it called? The license marriage license.
Oh,
She
marriage
had to pay
license.
for that. Yeah, the $80 it was at the courthouse, she had to pay for
Yeah.
it 'cause
Oh no.
she's like, "I still don't know why I married you because
Right.
you were broke. You didn't even I had to sell my car to get out of jail when I got arrested 6 years ago, and so I didn't have a car. I was borrowing a vehicle from my cousin that I was living with to go see her every week, and she's like, "I don't you didn't have a job or nothing." Like, I got a job, and 2 months later, we got married.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you
We
got it, you got it. You know what I mean?
got it. You got it. That's right. I mean, it was meant to be if you picked her up in that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
using a, old Ford van to go pick her up and take her out, like, every dime I got from odd jobs, I was using to take her out to eat, and
Right on.
she's like, God blinded me, and I'm like, I'm glad he did, girl.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Lord, for not giving sight when I don't want you to give it. Yeah,
Hey
it's
man,
like,
how are you?
yeah, that's right. It's like, could you not heal this blind girl for this time? Just leave her blind for a while.
Just let her be blind for the rest of our lives. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, but no, that was during that time though. It was crazy. I mean, we had dollars
Yeah,
in the old bank account, and when we were faithful and tithe, crazy stuff. Like one time we were like, we're doing it, we're putting it first, and literally like 3 days later, like I wasn't sure how I was going to get to work because I didn't have enough gas to put it in my truck to go to work,
yeah.
and um, literally like 2 days later, when I was pretty much on E, um, my wife had gone to the doctor like the week before, and our insurance overcharged, or no, the hospital overcharged the insurance company, and the insurance company can't take it back, so they had to give it to us.
Oh
And it
wow.
was like, yeah, it's some kind of like, how does this even happen thing? And it was like, like $250 or something, like just
Yeah,
enough to get fuel and food and whatever and get us through. Like God has always provided. And when I think I'm not going to get any jobs, or I don't have any things that are taken off under contract or whatever, God always provides for us no matter what. So
he is. He's always faithful, and he's shown that time and time again. Because that whole time where it got cut in half, and we were like, "Well, what are we gonna do?" Somehow every bill was paid. We never
yep.
missed ties. And the year our money got cut in half, when we got our tax thing back, from the church saying how much we paid in tithes,
Oh yeah.
somehow we doubled from the year before.
What?
That's how God does things when we stay faithful to Him and just do and obey. And because this is how I explained a guy that was a new convert at the church. I told him, I said, listen, in your ties, in your life, your relationships, your home, your kids, your house, your vehicle, everything that's given to you, give right back to God. Everything. Like I got a new truck a few months ago, and it was the first truck I ever got. I was so excited. It was the first thing that I got that my parents' name wasn't on. You know what I mean? It was one of those
Yep.
things where I'm like,
Yep.
that's right. You know what?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my truck. And
Yeah.
and I went out there and I took anointing oil and I just anointed my truck and I prayed over it and I gave it.
Hmm.
I dedicated it back to God. And my son comes
Yeah.
out there and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm I'm praying over my truck. I'm giving it back to God. It's His." And he was like, he looked at me kind of weird. He's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." But I was showing him that when
Yeah.
God gives you something, you give it back. Why wouldn't God bless something that is His?
That's right.
That wouldn't make sense for Him not to.
Yep.
And so he slapped his
Man,
hand
that's good.
on the hood of the truck and he said, "Blessed Jesus," and then he took off running laughing.
Yeah,
I'm like, kid, something's wrong with you.
my son is almost, he'll be 3 November the 25th. So he's getting there.
My son's
And
November 21st.
no way.
Yeah,
There you go. That's a good that's a good month.
it's a good month. Yeah.
Good month. My wife was born on the 17th of November, so
Oh, really?
yeah, her birthday present was my son. Yeah, it was
Surprise.
good. Yeah, for that year.
Yeah, right.
But he's just now starting to pray. Like he's just now, like we pray with him every night. My wife does if I'm not able to help put him to bed or whatever.
Mhm.
But every night we always ask him, like, hey, what do you want to pray for? And then we pray for those things, it's like whatever, it's monster trucks or whatever it might be.
Right.
But you know what I mean. But he always prays my father-in-law, my wife's dad. He's battling leukemia. He's down in
Oh,
Houston doing that, and he calls him Grandpa. And every night I want to pray for Grandpa,
yeah.
and he's pray for Grandpa, pray for a bunch of people, like all this stuff, and he
Goes down
loves
a
it. He
list.
like
Yeah.
lists all the things, like my blocks, the monster truck, my dump truck, my excavator,
Yeah.
like all this stuff, and the stuff he cares about, But he just now started where we could get him to pray out loud, and it's not very loud. He's like, "Thanks God," like like he whispers,
Yeah.
and he lays his head down on the table
Yeah.
like and squints his eyes, and he's like, "Oh, thank you God for this."
So funny.
Yeah, he's killing it though. So looking forward to hearing some of those prayers one of these days. See what comes out of his brain.
That's
So
awesome. Well,
yeah.
I've held you up longer than I meant to. Sorry about that.
No, you're good, man. I've enjoyed getting to know you in the fellowship, man. It's been good.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your heart and kind of talking about the struggles with being bivocational. So don't forget, you can check us out at faithandfailures.com, where every episode we put out every week is on the website. Just click on podcast and it'll show you all the episodes. As well as YouTube, you can search Faith and Failures, and every episode that we put out will be on YouTube. All right, we'll see y'all next week.